Money is not merely the result of labor, hard work, or the hours one spends at a desk or in a shop. It is a form of supply, and true supply is divine. Most people live under the illusion that their income is tied to an employer, a paycheck, or the economy. And so they feel anxious when any of these appear unstable. But in truth, these are only channels, temporary and changeable. The real source of money is infinite spirit, and when one understands this, fear begins to dissolve. A person may lose a job, but they cannot lose their source, for God is the unfailing, inexhaustible supply, and He works through countless channels to meet every need. The river may change its course, but the ocean from which it flows never runs dry. When one sees money as received rather than earned, there is a shift from struggle to receptivity. The mind becomes open to unexpected ways in which wealth may arrive. Gifts, inheritances, sudden business, opportunities, forgotten debts paid, or even miraculous provisions that cannot be explained. By believing that one must earn every cent through toil and effort alone, one limits the ways in which supply can appear. But by recognizing that the real source is spiritual, one allows the infinite to work in countless forms, far beyond the narrow scope of human reasoning. Florence Scovel Shinn often taught that money is God in action. This means it is a spiritual idea made visible in the form of currency, checks, or opportunities. Since God is omnipresent, the supply is already around you in some form. The key is not to chase it frantically, but to align with it so it can manifest through the right channels. When one affirms that they are open to receive, they step into the flow of abundance, and the unseen forces begin moving to bring the supply into tangible form. Many people place themselves in a constant state of struggle because they tie their self-worth to their earning ability. If their labor is interrupted, their income stops, and with it, their peace of mind. This belief stems from fear, a fear that there is not enough to go around, that one must compete for limited resources. But spiritual law says the opposite. There is no shortage in infinite spirit. There is as much wealth in the world as one is prepared to receive. The problem is never the supply, but the consciousness of the receiver, to shift from the belief that money must be earned to the knowing that it is received. One must practice trust and speak words of truth. Affirmations such as, God is my unfailing supply, and I now receive large sums of money quickly and easily retrain the mind to expect provision without strain. It is not about abandoning work, rather, it is about releasing the idea that work is the sole source. Work becomes a joy, an avenue of service, and one of many possible channels for the supply to flow, but never the master upon which your livelihood depends. When a person accepts this truth, they become receptive to divine timing and divine methods. They no longer panic when one door closes, for they know another is already opening. They no longer feel trapped by a single source of income, for they understand that supply is limitless and can appear from unexpected directions. This shift in consciousness opens the way for miracles of provision, often in ways the rational mind could not have planned. To live in this awareness is to walk in faith rather than fear. It is to release the struggle of making money and instead focus on aligning thoughts, feelings, and words with abundance. By doing so, one becomes a magnet for prosperity, drawing it not through force, but through spiritual law, which operates unfailingly for those who believe. The act of receiving is not passive. It is a conscious choice to expect, to prepare, and to welcome the good that is already yours by divine right. There is a profound simplicity in the idea that one clear, faith-filled declaration can open the way for immediate supply. Most people believe they must work endlessly, plot complicated strategies, or exhaust themselves in planning before they can see any financial increase. Yet spiritual law works by direct command, and the most powerful commands are often the simplest ones. When a person speaks an affirmation such as, Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate supply. Let large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace, in perfect ways, They set in motion unseen forces that rearrange circumstances, inspire ideas, and draw opportunities to them in precise alignment with their request. The words act as a spiritual blueprint, a clear instruction to the universal mind, which responds to the certainty with which it is given. For such a sentence to hold real power, it must be spoken with authority and conviction. Many people speak affirmations as if they are asking a favor or hoping something might happen, but this weakens the command. The universe responds not to wishful thinking, but to words spoken in the consciousness that they are already accomplished. The declaration must come from a place of inner knowing, as if the thing requested is already present in some unseen form and is simply now appearing on the visible plane. This is why hesitation or doubt instantly dilutes the effect. If one says the sentence and then immediately begins to worry about whether it will work, they plant a seed and then uproot it before it can grow. It is important to understand that the sentence is not magic in itself. The power lies in the consciousness behind it. Words are vessels for belief, and when the vessel is filled with unwavering faith, it becomes a command to the creative law. Faith is the magnet that draws the substance of supply from the unseen to the seen. That is why even one utterance, if filled with complete conviction, can achieve more than hundreds of repetitions made without feeling. In fact, over-repetition from a place of doubt can become counterproductive, turning a statement of truth into a chant of worry. When the sentence is spoken, one must then release it to divine intelligence, trusting that the perfect channels will open. This means surrendering the urge to control the method or timeline, for divine supply often comes in ways beyond human planning. The words under grace, in perfect ways, are vital, for they ensure that the manifestation comes without harm to anyone and through the highest and best means. They remove the strain of force and replace it with the certainty of divine order. Those who have applied this practice with sincerity often find that results arrive in delightful and sometimes astonishing forms. A long-forgotten debt is suddenly repaid, a valuable item is found and sold, an unexpected gift arrives, or a business deal progresses faster than imagined. The key is that the manifestation is often surprising, yet it feels natural when it comes, as if it had been on its way all along. This is the hallmark of a request made in perfect alignment with spiritual law. The one-sentence method is also a powerful antidote to fear. When anxiety about money tries to take hold, speaking the sentence recenters the mind in truth. It shifts attention away from the visible lack and back to the invisible supply, reminding the subconscious that the matter has already been placed in the hands of infinite spirit. The more consistently one responds to fear with a statement of faith, the faster fear loses its grip. This practice also cultivates a habit of precision in speech. Rather than scattering energy over many vague requests, the mind is trained to focus sharply on a single clear intention. The words, once spoken, go forth like an arrow to their target, carrying the energy of faith with them. When this is done wholeheartedly, even one declaration can bring about the desired result within hours. For spiritual law is not bound by time as human reasoning is. The moment the right word is spoken with the right belief, the process of manifestation begins, and what is claimed in spirit must appear in form. To speak once and believe always is to enter into the essence of true faith. Many people approach affirmations or prayers as though they are fragile, requests that must be repeated constantly to have any hope of working. Yet in the realm of spiritual law, one word spoken in an absolute conviction is enough to set the entire process of manifestation into motion. Just as a seed, once planted, needs time and the right conditions to grow, so too does a declaration of truth require trust and patience. Constantly repeating it from a place of fear is like digging up the seed to check if it has sprouted, which only delays the harvest. When a person makes a clear statement of what they desire, they must treat it as complete. It is not a plea for something to happen, but an acknowledgement that it already exists in the unseen and is now moving into visibility. The affirmation is a spiritual decree, and a decree is not repeated in doubt, it is spoken. Once as a command and then supported by a consciousness that it is already done. This mental posture is vital, for the universe reflects the dominant state of belief. If the belief is that I must keep asking because it hasn't happened yet, then the condition of lack is reinforced. But if the belief is, it is done, and I now await its perfect appearance, then abundance is affirmed and invited to unfold naturally. Florence Scovel Shinn often stressed that the moment you ask, it is given. But it appears on the visible plane only when you are aligned with it. This alignment is maintained not by constant verbal repetition, but by holding steady in thought and feeling. If after speaking the sentence you drift into fear, replace that fear with a statement of truth, something like, God's supply is immediate and unfailing, but do not treat it as starting over. You are not beginning the process again. You are simply brushing away the dust of doubt to keep your faith clear. True belief also requires detachment from the method and the timeline. Speaking once and believing always means you do not watch the clock or question how the supply will arrive. You understand that divine intelligence works through countless channels, many of which are beyond human prediction. If you speak the word and then begin to analyze every possible way the money could come, you limit the channels and invite disappointment when your expectations are not met in the exact form imagined. The better approach is to affirm once, release the request entirely, and live as though the outcome is certain. This does not mean passivity. Believing always is an active state of consciousness. It involves continually choosing thoughts and actions that match the reality you have declared. If you have spoken for abundance, you avoid speaking words of lack or engaging in fearful complaints. If you have declared that large sums of money are on their way, you act in ways that prepare for and welcome that money. This could mean tidying your financial affairs, making space in your accounts, or even practicing generosity to demonstrate trust in the ongoing flow of supply. The discipline of speaking once and believing always also develops a deep sense of peace. Instead of living in a constant loop of asking and waiting, you live in the calm assurance that what you have claimed is already on its way. This peace is magnetic. It draws circumstances into harmony with your request because you are no longer sending out conflicting vibrations of wanting and doubting. Faith, once set in motion, becomes a steady current that carries the desired result toward you without strain. When one truly masters this principle, results often come swiftly, for the clarity and certainty of belief leave no room for resistance. The single statement, made in full trust, is like a signature on a spiritual contract. It binds the unseen forces to act in your favor. All that remains is to keep your thoughts in agreement with what you have declared, knowing that your word, once spoken in faith, is the law that governs the outcome. Detaching from the how is one of the most freeing and essential aspects of manifestation. When a person makes a request to infinite spirit for supply, there is a natural tendency to try to control the exact way in which it should arrive. The human mind, operating from habit and limitation, begins to list possibilities, analyze potential channels, and decide which ones are most likely to succeed. But spiritual law works beyond human reasoning, and the more one clings to a specific plan, the more they restrict the infinite ways in which the answer can come. The truth is that the channels for your supply already exist, though they may be invisible to you, and divine intelligence knows the quickest, most harmonious route for it to reach you. When one detaches from the how, they free themselves from the stress of trying to make something happen. The request has already been made. The work has already begun in the unseen. The role of the individual now is to maintain expectancy and gratitude while allowing the divine to orchestrate the details. This can be compared to sending a letter and then standing over the postal system demanding to know which truck will carry it, which route will be taken, and at what hour it will be delivered. The letter is on its way regardless, and the less interference there is, the smoother its arrival. Detachment does not mean indifference or passivity. It means trust. Trust that there are more channels than you can imagine. Trust that the process has already begun, and trust that the outcome will be in perfect timing. It is the conscious release of control to a power that sees all factors and knows all needs. This trust opens the way for unexpected avenues to appear. A person might expect the money to come through their employer, yet it arrives through an inheritance, a gift, a business transaction, or a surprise refund. By clinging to only one imagined route, they might have overlooked or even blocked the true channel of supply. The words under grace in perfect ways are especially important in this process. They act as a safeguard, ensuring that the manifestation comes in harmony with all concerned and without strain or harm. This phrase also helps quiet the mind, for it affirms that the divine method will be right and good, even if it looks different from what was originally imagined. Many have experienced disappointment when their request seemed unanswered, only to discover later that the delay or redirection brought them something far better than they had hoped. By detaching from the how, one also releases the emotional pressure that can cause resistance. When a person is watching every moment for signs of movement and growing, impatient when they see none, they create a vibration of lack. This lack consciousness sends a message that the thing is not here yet, which delays its arrival. Detachment, on the other hand, holds the steady awareness that the request is already fulfilled in spirit and is now simply unfolding in the perfect way. This steady awareness creates a vibration of peace and assurance, which draws the desired outcome more swiftly. It is often in moments of complete surrender that manifestations arrive. After struggling to figure out the details, a person may finally release the burden and say, "I trust that this is handled," and soon after, the answer appears. This is not coincidence. It is the natural result of removing the mental blocks that come from overthinking and controlling. Once the resistance is gone, the way is clear for the supply to flow. The practice of detachment becomes easier with experience. Each time a person witnesses an unexpected channel delivering exactly what they needed, their faith grows. They begin to understand that their role is to speak the word, hold the vision, and then step back so that the divine can do its perfect work. By surrendering the how, they open the door for miracles, those wonderful outcomes that arrive in ways the human mind could never have devised. Guarding your thoughts is one of the most important disciplines in the process of attracting supply. For every thought is a seed, and every seed produces after its kind. You cannot affirm abundance in one breath and then speak of lack, fear, or limitation in the next without canceling your own work. The subconscious mind takes every statement you make, whether aloud or silently, and treats it as an instruction. When you say, "I can't afford that," or "money is hard to come by," you are planting seeds of shortage that will inevitably bear fruit in your circumstances. Likewise, when you hold steady to thoughts of plenty, the subconscious works tirelessly to align your experiences with that belief. The difficulty is that most people have been conditioned from childhood to think in terms of limitation. Phrases like, "we can't afford it," or "money doesn't grow on trees" are absorbed into the mind long before a person understands the power of their own words. These habitual thoughts run silently in the background, undermining affirmations and prayers. That is why guarding the mind is an active, daily practice. You must become the watchman at the gate of your own consciousness, refusing entry to any thought that contradicts the truth you have claimed. When you make a request for large sums of money, the work is not finished once the sentence is spoken. The spiritual law is already operating, but you must protect that work from the interference of fear and doubt. This means catching yourself the moment you notice a thought of worry and replacing it immediately with a statement of truth such as, "God is my supply, and there is no lack in my life." This is not mere positive thinking. It is a deliberate act of aligning your inner state with the reality you are creating. The power of guarding your thoughts lies in consistency. One stray thought of lack may not undo your affirmation, but repeated indulgence in fear will weaken the vibration of certainty that draws the supply to you. The law of mind is impartial. It will produce whatever is impressed upon it most often and most strongly. If the dominant vibration is abundance, the outer world will reflect it. If the dominant vibration is lack, it will reflect that as well. The choice of what seeds to plant belongs entirely to you. It is also important to be mindful of the influence of your environment, the people you associate with, the conversations you take part in, and even the media you consume can all plant seeds in your mind. If you spend time with those who constantly complain about money or speak of the economy in hopeless terms, you will find yourself absorbing their beliefs unless you consciously reject them. This is why Florence Scovel Shinn often advised withdrawing from negative talk and surrounding oneself with uplifting, faith-filled words. Guarding your thoughts does not mean pretending problems do not exist. It means choosing to focus on the truth that divine supply is greater than any appearance of lack. You acknowledge what is happening in the outer world, but you refuse to give it authority over your inner state. Instead, you keep your attention on the fact that God's channels are infinite and that the supply you have spoken for is already on its way. With practice, this mental discipline becomes second nature. You learn to identify fear the moment it arises and replace it before it can take root. You become skilled at holding your mind in the vibration of abundance, even in the face of challenges. Over time, this guarded consciousness becomes a fortress that no outer condition can penetrate. The result is that your words and your inner state remain in perfect agreement, creating a clear, uninterrupted channel through which large sums of money can flow to you quickly and with ease. Gratitude is the multiplying force behind all manifestations, for it signals to the universe that the good you have received is recognized, appreciated, and welcomed. When you give thanks for the money that arrives, no matter the amount, you align yourself with the vibration of abundance, which naturally draws more to you. Gratitude is not simply polite manners. It is a spiritual law. Whatever you praise and bless increases, and whatever you criticize or take for granted diminishes in your experience. By expressing sincere thanks for the arrival of large sums of money, you anchor the truth that supply is flowing and that you are a worthy recipient of it. When the manifestation arrives, it is important to acknowledge it immediately. Many people receive unexpected money and dismiss it as coincidence or luck, forgetting that they had called it forth. By doing this, they weaken the chain of faith, for they fail to connect the cause with the effect. Gratitude bridges that gap. It recognizes that the good came as a direct response to a spoken word of truth, and it honors the divine intelligence that orchestrated its arrival. This recognition strengthens belief, making the next manifestation easier and faster. Giving thanks also prevents the mind from slipping back into fear or lack. Without gratitude, there is a tendency to focus on what is still missing, rather than what has been gained. A person may receive a gift of money and immediately think, "It's not enough," or "I still have bills to pay." Such thoughts close the channel that has just been opened. But when you respond with, "Thank you, Infinite Spirit, for this supply, and I bless its increase," you keep the door wide open for more. Gratitude changes the mental atmosphere from scarcity to sufficiency, and sufficiency naturally expands into abundance. Gratitude should not be reserved only for the moment the manifestation is visible. It can and should be practiced in advance. By thanking the divine for your supply before it appears, you demonstrate faith that it is already on its way. This is not make-believe, but the acknowledgement of a spiritual fact that what you have spoken for exists in the unseen and is moving toward you. Florence Scovel Shinn often taught that thanking in advance was one of the most powerful ways to bring the unseen into the seen, for it combines the power of the spoken word with the energy of faith. This attitude of thanks can be woven into daily life. Each time money changes hands, whether you are receiving or giving, Silently bless it and express gratitude. When you pay a bill, thank the divine for the means to do so and affirm that more is on the way. When you find even a small coin on the ground, pick it up with joy and say, I am blessed with abundance. These small acts keep you in a state of constant receptivity, signaling to the universe that you are ready for and appreciative of all forms of wealth. Over time, gratitude becomes more than a practice. It becomes a state of being. You no longer wait for extraordinary events to give thanks. You find reasons for appreciation everywhere. This constant acknowledgement of good attracts more good. For the law is that like attracts like. The person who is grateful for what they have, however little, is preparing the ground for greater blessings, while the one who complains about what is missing shuts the flow. By making gratitude a natural and immediate response to every form of supply, you ensure that the flow of money does not end with one manifestation but continues to grow. You signal to Infinite Spirit that you are not only open to receive, but also trustworthy in handling what is given. In this way, each blessing becomes the seed for the next, and wealth begins to multiply in ways that seem effortless and inevitable.